You're awesome. Hello, guys. Hope you're doing well. And today is check in my checklist and whatever, however you say it, because I have Chris here. So funny story, Chris. Before we actually go into a conversation and everything, when I was a kid, right? When I was in my undergrad, I remember doing a project for my school, right? And in the project, one of the goals was to create like a plan or a company, not a company, but like a plan with a company that I wanted to partner in the future or just like wanted to work with them. And it's funny because being a kid, I always dream of like, wow, I really wish one day I get to know like, or just to partner with Keeper stuff. And this is real. I think if I actually look back in the days, like I can find the presentation. I remember like cropping the image of Keeper stuff and everything. Nowadays, like again, we got to meet probably like a couple of months ago. So for me, honestly, this is like a privilege and this is like really special. So I'm really thankful for you to taking the time to to just be in this call with me and like to share any knowledge that you have with all the goalkeepers and with the community. I know it's a small community, so I'm looking forward to just hear what you have to say. Okay. I'm not gonna introduce yourself. I will let
I appreciate you. Let me say this: you're not just a goalkeeper coaching me. You're a friend now. So we've had some laughs together on and off the field. So we're a part of the union now. You know.
yeah. I'm really glad I got to meet you and looking forward to have more memories like you were saying to her. So talk to me, tell me, introduce yourself. I mean, I don't know if you need more of an introduction, but of course, like go ahead for people that doesn't really know about Keeper Stop yourself. So talk to us a little bit about you.
So I started Keeper Stop 20 plus years ago now for the sole reason to satisfy the needs of the goalkeepers. I felt underrepresented when I was a goalkeeper coming up, and I'm a little bit older than you are, and the education wasn't there, and nor was the equipment. So with a stack of quarters, truly, I called Adidas International when I was a freshman in high school, so 1989, and asked Adidas International why I could not get the Goicoechea Montevideo jersey. And they're like, well, it's just not available in the US. I'm like, it's such an amazing position. It's so colorful. It's fashion forward. They're like, sorry. So that freshman year of high school, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do something one day, right? About goalkeeping. And then on my 30th birthday, I was just like, wasn't happy in corporate America. I had a great job, made great money, but I just didn't feel satisfied. And I coached in Boston. I coached at different clubs and MIT and other schools. And I just said, you know what? At 30 years old, I'm going to leave corporate America. I'll do what I have to do to make Keeper Stop happen. And at that time, I was playing like Laza League. You played for the Haitians, you played for the Greek teams. You got paid a little bit, you ate good food. But I just loved goalkeeping. I loved goalkeeping from the very first minute that I started. And never look back. And fast forward, it's helped me on and off the field to be a better person, to be a better problem solver. It's helped me, fight for what I believe in. It helps me with my passion in life. And those are the tenets of goalkeeping that I take through every aspect of my life.
That's really powerful. The fact that like something that occurred when you were younger and then later in life you were like, you know what? I'm gonna stop everything that I'm doing and then just go for it. So how, like you said, and I think this is kind of nice for you to kind of share with us because I know a lot of people that doesn't start a thing just because of the fear of like, okay, how should I start without taking that first step? So you mentioned how you were like in a good position, like high tech and stuff like that. And in your 30s, you were still decided to just go ahead and start this. Like, what were your thoughts going through all this process?
I'll be honest with you, it's like learning a new technique in goalkeeping. You just do it, right? Good or bad or ugly, I don't have a lot of fear when it comes to trying things new. And I think it's goalkeeping, right? I mean, we're crazy for learning the smother save at somebody's feet or learning to, pull a ball out of the top corner. And, you practice things in your head enough, you think about it enough, like, right? The mental reps are more important than the physical reps. And I knew I wanted to do something and thought about it enough and really wrote it down, wrote a business plan of what I was going to do, what a SWOT analysis, who was in the market, what were they doing, and where were the opportunities. And just as I said, like goalkeeping, right? First time you learn to dive, you do it in the water or do it from your knees, right? And so the first thing I did, I set myself little goals, right? And so the first goal I'm going to buy the URL. So I bought the URL. And then next thing I did is like, all right, after the URL, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to find a web development company that fits within my budget. And so I progressed to the next step. So I set myself short-term milestones, and that next thing I know, I had Keeper Stop.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you mentioned really key points. For example, like writing down your plan, like the ideology of like, okay, what I want to achieve, like the step to step, and then just taking like one step at a time of you to be able to progress, right? Not just thinking and fancying about the whole huge picture, but understanding that it's those little small steps that actually guide you towards that goal.
Yeah, I think the misconception in goalkeeping in general is like players like, I want to start. Right. Well, there's a million other steps. There's a million other things that happen before that. And that's what I did with businesses, in goalkeeping, right? We know what failure is and we know what, disappointment is. We experience it all the time. So truly, me starting a business, I knew I'd be happier on the other side of this. And, my first office was a 10 by 10 office. And I would be lucky if I had, you know, 10 orders a week or one order a week. And I had no furniture and I just had like, a couple brands of gloves.
Yeah, that's awesome. And something that you mentioned as well, like you were so driven because of the passion about just goalkeeping in general. So how does this passion born? Like, what are the origins of goalkeeping in Christian?
I think it's survivalist, right? Is like everybody has their traumas in their childhood, and I always wanted something better than what I had as a kid, right? I always wanted something better. I wanted, and I didn't know what it was at that time, but I wanted to be 1% better than the day before. I wanted to be, accepted. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to start in soccer, and I just didn't take no for an answer because you know what? For a long time in my life, I took no, right? Or I took what people gave me. And, I think that's what drove me to goalkeeping is like I was almost used to, you know, being the odd man out. Not necessarily odd man out, it's a wrong word for it, but I was used to being like the
That one.
yeah, not the sure bet, and I prided myself as a kid up and through teenage years of being the dark horse. That's what I meant to say. I'm being the dark horse and, proving everybody wrong and proving that I was bigger, stronger, not necessarily bigger, stronger, but better than everybody else. And, you know, I knew in my heart of hearts that I was an athlete. I knew I was smart. I just needed an avenue to channel that passion, and I just fell into goalkeeping. It wasn't until I was 14 years old. I was a baseball player before that. I was a really good multi-sport athlete, you know, just because I like playing in the backyard. Right, my generation, we played in the backyard, or we went to parks and played World Cup for hours on end. Right, and now it's about cones and structure. We were unstructured and a little bit less civilized, but I think that like playing amongst my peers and fighting and competing is what truly started it. And then goalkeeping was just a natural like progression for me. Like, you want to score? Well, I'm going to save your shot. Let's go. And you want to put the ball in the corner? And I was 5 foot nothing and barely touched the crossbar. I'm going to pull a low hand save in the corner and push it around the bar.
Yeah. And like you said, like I think in the goalkeeper mindset, there is always like that challenge aspect of being like, hey, I want to compete against you to see if you can. I remember in the school, I was kind of similar with one of my best friends. Like the whole recess was about him trying to score on me, and of course me trying to be like, there's no chance you're gonna score on me. So I think as a goalkeeper, you have that mentality as well of like, okay, I want a good challenge, and I want to be successful on this challenge, right? We want to win that battles.
Of
With that
course.
being said. Of course, like you said, you took the risk, you went with the company. So, like, what do you believe has been like the biggest challenges that you have been facing regarding like creating your brand, creating your own company, and just like giving away that stable job and then looking for your passion? What do you think has been the biggest challenges so far?
So the biggest challenge for me in general is like any goalkeeping, like any goalkeeper is like if you wanna be number one, you got to train like you're number one, right? Even if you're number two or three, and to compete against the soccer.coms and Amazons of the world, I have to be better at certain things. And so I've prided myself on differentiating myself that Keeper Stop is for goalkeepers by goalkeepers. And whether you're one order and you're starting out or a university buying 10 pairs of gloves, they get the same level of customer service and passion. And again, that to me is like being a part of the goalkeeping core, and you're trying to earn your number one spot, and you're training to your strengths, and you're identifying what the team needs and finding out where you can be next. you know, there's many people that tried to start what I started in the US and have failed, right? And I've always stayed true to my mantra, which is again is for goalkeepers by goalkeepers. And every decision I make, and it's to a detriment to me sometimes, every decision I make is for the goalkeeping community. Everyone.
Yeah. And whoever is listening to this or watching this, it's really nice that like Chris has always been open to be like, hey, if you need any recommendation regarding gloves, just call me. And then of course this guy, like you can see in the background, this guy can just talk hours about like a specific gloves or whatever in general. So with that being said, let's dwell a little bit more into that topic. For example, what do you think right now is like the biggest misconception of gloves or like the general picture of gloves in the market? Like, what are your thoughts about whenever I mention gloves, what are the first things that come up to your mind, basically?
The thing that I really want to share with goalkeepers and their families and coaches is, there is a glove out there for every goalkeeper, but it has to meet their budget and their playing need. And that's it, right? And there are a million goalkeeper glove brands. I think it's important for the goalkeepers to do their research, and I always offer this is like, even if you don't buy from me, you can call and ask me or email like, hey, what do you think of this? 9 times out of 10, I'm going to earn somebody's business because I know what I'm talking about. I'm authentic to a fault, but I'm authentic and I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. And how we develop our product mix at Keeper Stop is we try to think like the goalkeeper. All right, a goalkeeper with a $60 budget with finger protection, and wants something that's good on turf. What is that going to be? Okay, a new goalkeeper just starting out, youth goalkeeper. What does that look like? What is an advanced goalkeeper with a budget cost? Like why we started the KPR brand is like, all right, an $80 budget. What glove can we develop that meets their playing and budgetary needs? Because I didn't have a lot of money growing up. So I think in goalkeeping in general, I think that what's needed and what's missing is authenticity and honesty about what a glove does and where it's manufactured and what the benefits are. And we pride ourselves on making sure that we know the differences between each and every glove, their manufacturers, where they're manufactured, and the components that go into it.
Hmm. Also, I think you mentioned something key about like every goalkeeper will have their own needs and like you need to go there and try it. I think like I have tried different pair of gloves and of course there has been one that is stuck to me and I feel more confident with me. So I think that's the brand that I like the most, to be fair. But the budget played an important role. I remember growing up during college and stuff like that. I didn't have like all the access that nowadays people have, like like the university giving glove or stuff like that. So I needed to be mindful about those things. What are some tips you will give a goalkeeper? Let's start first of all with a goalkeeper whenever he's deciding for gloves.
The tips I'm going to always pick first is, and it's contrary to what people do. People pick gloves because social media influencers or pros are wearing them, or, the colors, right? You got to do the opposite, I think. It's like you identify your budget because I'll say a glove sometimes. I'll go out on a limb and I'll be like, this is the best, $80 glove. And people are like, no, it's this glove or it's that glove. But they're not comparing apples to apples, right? And so the first thing for me, as I said before, is you pick a glove based on your budget and your playing need. And then from there, you're picking out whether you need finger protection or not. You're picking out whether you need a practice glove or a game glove. You pick out, what cut fits your body style, which is a big one. Cut. So to me, size is determined by length of your hand. Cut is determined by preference, but also your body type. I mean, there's certain gloves I can't wear because I'm a cinder block. I'm a typical male American. I'm 5'10", 200 pounds. Goalkeepers are 6'4" and 150, 160. I'm not that guy anymore. So you got to pick a glove that fits your style as well as your body type and cut. And then from there, you can try, if you can, match a color to your boots and your gloves. I think so many goalkeepers are concerned with the fashion aspect, which is why I started in the first place, but they can't sacrifice quality for fashion.
Yeah, yeah. And personally, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned. If I'm honest with you, Chris, I'm a big believer about the fashion thing, just because of the sense that I think, like, I don't know, if you wear a suit, like your ego, your boost your ego, right? Some sense, like you have a good shape, you have a good haircut, like with a good suit, like you know that you're owning the place. So that's why I believe, like, for example, if you have like clean boots, like matching with the gloves, and you look like super aesthetic, wise, like people will be like, wow, this guy knows how to play, right? But
Yeah.
going back to the aspect, like you also need to be really mindful about what you're getting and not just doing it because oh it looks good, right? Because then you will look like a joke.
That I learned something very valuable, and looking good is part of it. Are you 98% like the rest of the players out there, or are you a two percenter?
Mhm.
98% of the people show up on time, they look great, they leave at time that they're supposed to, or you're a two percenter. Doesn't care what it looks like.
Mhm.
You're gonna put in the work, you're gonna grind it out, whether you're in a ratty t-shirt or you're in, matching top shorts and cleats and gloves. I mean, to me, what I've realized over the years, it's not what you look like, it's how you perform. And I get what you're saying, but you can't dive in a suit, right? So you got to make sure that, it's everything matters. And I know what you're saying because it means a lot to individuals, young goalkeepers as well as their parents to have what makes them feel good and look good, but you also have to make sure that it does satisfy the criteria to build confidence in every save.
Yeah, and again, back to our convert, like, and I think that that is earned in a sense of like for you to actually feel confident or like dress confident stuff like that. It comes down from what you're saying about like those small moments where you didn't have anything and you really push yourself, you didn't compare yourself, but those moments are earned. And I get what you said. You mentioned about the goalkeeper cuts, different gloves and cuts. So to whoever doesn't really have any knowledge about gloves, because I have seen it a lot in America, that goalkeeper, no goalkeeper, sorry, like players will show up with football, like American football cleats. So I'm sure they kind of do similar things with gloves. What kind of breakdown can you give us regarding like gloves and cuts and styles and all the thing? I know you're gonna spend like 4 hours here, but it's fine.
No, I mean I mean I just picking up. I had, like, this is my office. Like I actually do some of the videos inside here. I'm actually taking this call inside a light box. Truly, the light box is behind me.
Uh-huh.
Like, this is a negative cut, right? And I have Adidas gloves I can grab behind me, but this is a negative cut. So a negative cut is the most narrow cut that a lot of goalkeepers like because it pulls all that extra material inside. So it's the tightest against your fingers. So this happens to be a Royce glove. And I didn't do this on purpose. This is the content I created recently. I'm gonna go grab an Adidas glove. Yeah, this is a Copa glove. We have an Adidas account. They wanted it to return to grassroots marketing. So Adidas actually in this cut uses a fingertip negative and roll cut. So, I showed you the negative cut, but now you have, these wrap characteristics. So when you get a roll characteristic or a roll finger glove, it basically envelopes the goalkeeper's hand. It's wrapped up into the backhand. So no matter which way the ball twists and turns the latex, you have the most latex to ball contact when you have a roll cut. This Adidas glove happens to be a roll fingertip, but it has flat palms, and this is a good example, right? It has a flat palm cut here as well, so you can see the seam right here, and that seam and this latex there, it gives you a lot of latex to ball contact as well. I mean, flat cut is the most expansive, so Adidas says, you know what? We're going to give you control with latex to ball contact on the fingertip. We're going to give you a bigger finger patch to control it with a latex, which is what you spend the money on,
Mhm.
but then in the backhand, we're going to make it a negative cut. So it takes away any of that extra space. So, this is a pretty darn good glove. I can show others as well. But
Yeah,
this happens to be a hybrid. Right now, hybrids are the most
popular.
probably the most popular. Again, roll characteristics, roll, negative cut through here, flat palm. I showed you the negative. This is the KPR glove, which is somewhat similar, and I have roll negative, so it
Mhm.
rolls so that it takes all that extra room away on the side, so you have the most control, but latex ball contact. Then I went with negative cut in the inside because who wants extra room? I went with a wrap fingertip,
Yeah.
and then I went with roll on the outside, so you can see how it contours up to the goalkeeper. So every glove company should be this thoughtful in not just producing price points, but producing gloves. Let's see what this is. This is another hybrid. Hybrid seems to be very popular. But here's my question: what's the most popular glove cut in the world?
Right now,
Yeah.
well, I'll let some, I mean, kind of hybrid, isn't it?
No, but it's actually the most pros wear negative cuts, right?
Okay.
They wear negative cuts. Hybrids are definitely more popular now, but it's still negative cut. Adidas negative cut gloves, they are the cornerstone of goalkeeping, and hybrids are on the move, but it seems to be that negative cut is what's most popular. But it's important, and that's why we do what we do, and people can call us is like, hey, I'm 5'10" and 100 pounds. And I'm like, ooh, well, you got to look at only one glove or Elite Sport Revolution X or, West Coast, and everybody has their favorites because a goalkeeper coach says, or they're somebody
Yeah.
they admire wears them, or, they watch social media stars that wear them, or Juan wears whatever he wears. So.
Well, okay, so what about ages in a sense of like you mentioned everybody has their own, like does ages also plays an important role? Like for example, what advice will you give a parent that is just buying gloves for the kid and this guy has never played soccer or this mom has never played soccer and they just grab any pair of gloves that they find on discount?
As I said before, goalkeeper gloves are perishables. So you gotta pick a goalkeeper glove that meets your expectations and your household budget because the reality is the goalkeeper can lose the gloves, they get stolen at a tournament, they get stepped on and ripped. I mean, I've seen and heard it all. So first and foremost, parents, buy a glove that meets your budget. Don't get caught up in the glitz and glam because the better the grip, the worse the durability. There's no way around that. The better the durability, the worse the grip, and there's no way around that. And if you have a glove, it's kind of on both sides, the middle of the road, then you're sacrificing on both sides. And if anybody tells you differently, they are lying.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Like, yeah, that's true. It's actually funny because I remember during my college years, for some reason I grabbed like this cheap pair of gloves that were like trending Nike Adidas gloves, but they were fantastic. Like the grip was so good, and it was kind of like, what am I doing? But they were really good, so I kind of loved them. Um, okay, a little bit more about okay, moving a little bit from the gloves aspect and just dwelling more into whenever you were coaching and your experience, stuff like that. So, how do you feel about goalkeeping nowadays in United States? Like, how do you think the academies are working towards the goalkeepers? Like, how much emphasis there is in goalkeepers? Like, what do you think is the biggest gap, if there is any gap, regarding goalkeeping in the United States compared to the rest of the world?
I mean, the biggest gap, I mean, we are in the same coaching circles, you and I, and the conversations we all have, there's just not enough of it, right? You know, players are seen as commodities, right? They're not people, they're not a development cycle. They're just who can I get and snare into my net, make money from. Maybe I develop them in the process, and we'll see what happens from there. I mean, I just think in the US right now, money is such the primary concern, and we sell this illusion of, life after club or high school soccer, that there's a scholarship waiting for you, and it just doesn't, it's not there. What I see, I mean, I've coached, I haven't really coached at the professional level yet. Like, I've coached semi-pro, I coach USL goalkeepers, I coach youth goalkeepers, so I coach the top to bottom. I don't work with MLS goalkeepers. But what I see at the youth level is that, you know, clubs don't spend the money or the attention, I'll say, on goalkeeping development or even their player development. It's great that mom and dads, and I volunteer coach my kids as well as a 30-year college coach, and I love it. But you know, traveling around the world to coach, you see that, you know, a big pro club will have a say, or at least, some influence on what happens in that region or that territory for development, right? If you're in London, depending where you are, you have a number of clubs, and maybe the youth clubs are associated with the pro clubs, and the pro clubs are sending coaches out that are skilled and knowledgeable. I mean, I think I'm pretty damn good at what I do, but I'll go internationally and I'm like, man, I can learn something from this guy or this guy or this guy, because you know what they do for 40 hours a day? Not run keeper stop. They are working on curriculum. They are working on the psychology of childhood development. And so they're trying to maximize their efficiency on a field, maximize skill acquisition. They're trying to impart the best teaching practices. And I just don't think we're investing as a country. US soccer is not investing enough as a country at the national level, at the state level, with mandates with pro clubs to say, hey, I'm in New England, all right? I'm in Connecticut. The Revolution, you need to be in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. You know, there's a lot of barriers to do this right now. And, I train a lot of youth goalkeepers and they become pretty competent goalkeepers, but I just think we don't invest the time and energy as a country top down into education to encourage bottom up participation.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think, like, I mean, we have always spoke, like, the goalkeeper niche is really small, but the lack of education that you can find just for coaches and stuff like that, like, people need to get out of their way, their own way. Like, for example, you creating keeper stuff, you needed to go out of your way just to actually bring a whole goalkeeper thing here. It's kind of similar scenario. Like me, I'm lucky enough that I have different language, so I'm able to just learn from courses from Spain, courses from Brazil, courses from like whatever English country. But it's tough, like as a goalkeeper coach, to get good proper education or see different aspects. So it's shock.
Goalkeeper Yeah, goalkeeper training, and it's the misconception of it. It's like fitness training. Fitness is a component of it. To create a holistic goalkeeper, there's so many other components: technical, tactical, emotional, psychological. There's so many different components to it. And it's just goalkeeping right now, based on the education that's available, the perception is it's fitness training. All right, do this, do that, over, under, you know again, in the game, how long does a goalkeeper have to work?
Yeah.
Maybe at most 20 seconds. So, and how many opportunities during a game does a goalkeeper get a chance to make a second save?
Hmm.
So why are we working on 6 or 8 save sequences when they're not holding the first one or controlling the first one? So
Yeah.
my goalkeeper training, that one of the things that I like to ask my goalkeepers is, I don't like to harp on mistakes. what I ask them is, did you control your body and did you control the ball? And if you can answer that honestly, yes and yes, I don't need to say a word.
Hmm. So many topics, so many nice topics that we can dwell and talk a little bit about it. So type of training you mentioned. What are your like non-negotiables and train or like what are your thoughts whenever you're like developing a goalkeeper basically? I mean, you mentioned the fact of not doing a lot of repetitions just because in reality in the game you don't see that often of repetitions, but just can you explain a little bit more about like how does a training session looks like for you?
So a training session for me looks like the non-negotiables are 100% effort, right? And, a positive attitude. I mean, those two things for me are paramount because they dictate what happens after that. So, you know, I want a goalkeeper that's going to step on the field, that's willing to be coachable, that has a positive attitude, and is going to try what I'm asking them to try, and we can learn together. I'm not right on everything, right? And maybe there's two ways to make a save, and you know, one of the things I learned from Tony DeCicco a long time ago is overanalysis creates paralysis. And, I try to help the goalkeepers be as efficient as possible, control their body and the ball. And if they walk on the field with a positive, coachable manner, leave all that other crap off the field, then we're at a good place. We're at a good starting point. And then from there, you know, I'm not asking them to do a fitness session, right? So what I'm asking them to is be mentally tuned in and mentally focused. And the other non-negotiable for me is you can't watch a ball go by you.
You can
If you
what?
watch a ball,
You cannot
you
what?
cannot you cannot watch a ball go by you. You can't not react. There has to be an action because the way I feel is that if you give yourself an opportunity to learn, by making a decision, whether it's a wrong decision, you're still learning from that decision, right? It's every basketball analogy is, you can't shoot until you can't score until you shoot, you can't, and same thing in goalkeeping is you can't learn unless you make a decision. You can't learn until you make a save. And, you know, the other aspect of that is after the field. And one of the things that I always say is like, you got to try for everything. And that goes into the game as well. It's like, if you can walk off the field with your head high, knowing that you tried your absolute best, yeah, maybe you didn't get to the upper 90 save. Maybe you mistimed, a breakaway save and they chipped it over you because you got there late, but you tried your absolute best. And at that point in time, somebody looks at you and tells you, hey, you should have had that. And I'm like, I tried my best. What else can I do? And I like to develop that mental toughness in the field because in the training field because it helps you deal with mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen, and I want to train them to like try their best, be positive, and if they do those two things, other things fall into place.
Yeah, I once heard like nobody can be upset with you if you try your best, and that's the reality of it. Like if you're trying your best, you know that you're drained and stuff like that. Like how can you be upset with somebody that is trying their best?
Yeah, and to say that even further, nobody can be upset with you if you try your best. But most importantly, the most important person you know is yourself. And
Hmm.
if you could walk off the field with your head high, then it doesn't matter what other people are saying or grimacing. It's still gonna hurt, but at least it's a position of more strength. Like, oh man, we lost and I'm a terrible goalkeeper. I'm a terrible person. If you know you put your best effort on and off the field, that's all you would ever ask of yourself, ever.
Yeah, and it's shocking to see how many people always have something in the tank, you know? There was this funny video, or it's not a funny video, but it's an interesting video, that the guy is like, okay, guys, raise up the hand, right? And then they are like raising up here, and then he's like, okay, raise it up more, and then they raise it up more. And the guy is like, why you guys didn't raise it all the way up more from the beginning if you could have done it? So it's kind of like in the mental aspect, like sometimes we leave so much things in the table because we just don't give that extra push or we're really, oh, we need to wait our energy for later or stuff like that. So it's a good mindset to have. And with that being said, you mentioned different aspects of the goalkeeping. So let me ask you, for Christian, what defines a good goalkeeper? Like if you go to a pitch and you see somebody, what do you want to see in that goalkeeper? What is a good goalkeeper for you?
I mean, a good goalkeeper for me is going to be the enjoyment factor, and that's a very squishy answer, right? Is like if you're first and foremost, you have to enjoy what you do, and I don't care if you have the body type of Donnarumma, or Thibaut Courtois, right? I mean, you're like, ooh, look at those guys. They're 6'5", 6'6". They're specimens. They're built out of a mountain, and they're quick and they're fast and whatever. But before that even has to happen, they gotta love what they do. So for me, whether it's a young goalkeeper like my son's plural trying out for the first time goalkeeping, we play keeper wars all the time, and really enjoying what you do, to developing goalkeeper. It has to be fun. It's a game. And yeah, there's competition and there's wins and losses, and there's highs and lows within that. But in order to develop, have success, and then develop more, it has to come from a good place. And so I think that is the foundation for it. And yeah, the other things matter depending on the level you're playing on. I mean, hell, I'm 5'10", and you know, I played in Boston and had a great time playing for different leagues and different teams and whatever. Was I a pro caliber goalkeeper? Absolutely not. I was a phenomenal practice goalkeeper, but I didn't have the right support network. And I was, the psychological aspect of the game was very difficult for me. If I made a great save during a game, you weren't going to score on me. But if I made a mistake, I beat myself up over it. And I think that's why I commit so much into the the preparation or the psychological aspects of the game, because I knew that was one of the biggest downfalls for me as an athlete.
Yeah, two really great things that you mentioned. First of all, the love for the sport. And I remember watching this interview with a goalkeeper coach, his Spaniard goalkeeper coach, really good one. And they asked him, how do you teach a kid to actually dive if he doesn't want to dive? You know how like little kids sometimes want to dive and stuff like that? If he's scared of that. And he said, if he's scared of it, just move on. He's not a goalkeeper. He needs to love. He needs to want to be there, dive, and just be around and mess around. And that's a reality. I think like as goalkeepers, everybody say like we're crazy. Um, like if you're a dad or parent, whatever, you cannot force somebody to be a goalkeeper. Like we need to seek that adrenaline of like I want to dive, I want to be on the ground, and then like get that goalkeeper sumis that you're just going all around and just messing around. I think that's important. The love for the position is
Yeah, I think that love comes from passion, and passion sometimes for goalkeeping gets mistaken as craziness, right? We're passionate people. I love to debate. I love to argue. I love to I love
really,
to
Chris.
I love to compete. I love to compete. And those are foundations for goalkeeping. But you have to turn those into positive directions and focuses as opposed to, negativity. So, and I mean, that's what I try to do is, can we deal with failure? Can we deal with problems in a game realistic environment that challenge us to have success, challenge us to control your body and the ball? And when we make a decision, do we understand why we made that decision? And if we make those decisions enough and have enough success, they become cellular memory.
Yeah,
Job done.
I have always said, as goalkeepers, we get better the older than we get, just because of the fact, like you can see examples like Diego Martinez and other goalkeepers, just because of the fact of like you knowing how to control your emotions, you learning more about the game. And like you were saying, like the psychological part, right? Like of course you can be all over the place, but you know when to actually look in and stuff like that. For me as a player, the psychological part also played an important role. Like I was kind of similar like you. Like I was an amazing shot stopper, really agile, practice player, one of the best ones. But came to a game, and again, if my first ball was amazing, no way nobody was gonna score. If my first pass was a disaster, there was no chance I could do it. So, what are your best tips to young generation? I think nowadays young generation do a better job of understanding more of the psychological part. I never had a coach that told me like trust on yourself or stuff like that. So what are your thoughts on that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the most important aspect of your game. So, important psychologist told me the mental reps are more important than the physical reps. And, I used to beat myself up a lot as a young goalkeeper about, um, the mistakes I made. And now I try to, think about my best moments. I mean, I'm 51 years old and I still dive around and compete against guys your age. Maybe it's not as pretty as, some of the guys like yourself, but I still love to compete and I still get nervous. I still talk myself through PK saves and all right, if this ball pops through. So, the psychological components are believing in yourself. It could be the journaling aspect, or, if you don't believe in journaling as a whole, then preparation. Journaling is a form of preparation, right? It's like you do it for notes in classes or for work. You can journal your feelings, your successes, your failures, how you like the session, or at the very least, just write the session down, right? You can, meditate, or, that's a squishy word that people like, I'm not going to meditate. I'm not going to sit in a dark room and, listen to myself breathe. But you know what? You do that, and we just don't realize it. Maybe you're doing it before a game and you're closing your eyes and imagine yourself, making those saves. Maybe it's on the car ride there. So it's that, breath work and visualization, and then it's the training, right? Is practice makes good habits permanent, not perfect, but permanent.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff leads into a more consistent body of work.
Yeah. And honestly, like all these attributes, I believe they work all, like if you're not a goalkeeper, they will also work. Like for example, your case where you had an idea, you have an objective, you visualize like being the future wicketkeeper stop, everything started with you writing it down and taking those small steps. So it's kind of the similar scenario of just like being able to have in your mind where you want to go and just rehearse those moments. Not only the good ones, the negative, I do believe you need to rehearse as well and see how yourself is going to react during those moments, but continue to develop those small milestones as well through the process.
I mean, I'll be honest right now. I'm going through one of the worst things in my entire life right now, and I think that goalkeeping has helped me with it, right? Is dealing with, emotions, dealing with people doubting you, dealing with adversity, and being able to talk yourself out of dark places and talking yourself, through bad situations. It's like, it may be cliche-ish for some, but goalkeeping is a representation of life, the highs and lows. And, you know, we have to carry that with us. It's not just when we're on the game field. We have to carry that survivor, mentality. We have to, like, we're going to be better. We're going to prove them wrong. We're going to prove ourselves right. We have to work harder than everybody else, because they're always going to blame the goalkeeper. They always, 10 other players look behind you and be like, you're pulling the ball out of the back, and then it's your fault. They always look behind, right? And we got to be able to look at ourselves and be like, yeah, it sucks, but I got this. If I don't got it now, I'm gonna have it in the future. And it helps us deal with sometimes those empty spaces that we have, or those heavy feelings. And you know, it builds character. It enables us to be better on and off the field. There's nothing more I can say about that.
Yeah. Again, a really mental position. Like you can make three, it's always the same, so cliche. You can make 300 save, they score one on you, and nobody cares about that 300 save. And everybody's going to be talking about the striker that scored the goal on you. I think the marginalization of a goalkeeper is real. So you really need to be passionate and be willing to show up every single day to know that you're going to work hard. And the moment that things doesn't go you well, like you need to get that as more motivation to keep working
I
harder.
think I think that we need to have more fun in goalkeeping, right? I think that, you know, Martinez, right? He
Yeah,
gets
dude.
up and celebrates his saves. You stuff a field player on their feet, or you make a high hand save, or you hold onto a ball when a striker thought they scored, and like, not today, or you do a little dance. Everybody's like, oh, a goalkeeper should show no emotion. Show emotion. Show that you're happy. Show that you're sad. Show that, more importantly, that you're proud of yourself.
Yeah, to have fun and all that. That's it.
Exactly.
But hey, but be aware because that can be a double sword. Imagine just making the save, celebrating, and then you concede the next shot.
Hey, but a striker can do the same thing. They celebrate, they pull a lawn mowing cord, they putt a golf club, they ride the pony, whatever they're gonna do, and but they missed 10 shots before that. So why can't we celebrate as well? I'm just saying, goalkeepers, enjoy yourself. We have one life to live. You don't know the next time you're gonna be in goal. You don't know the next time you're gonna have a win or a save like that. Enjoy the moment.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny because again, my last game I never knew was gonna be my last game to be fair. Like national tournaments, we lost 1-0, rainy day, and then that's it. That was my college career in. And Chris, a couple more of questions. I know we're running on time and stuff, so I want to make a question. We have been talking about goalkeeper training, keeper stuff. You mentioned that you do multiple videos with keeper stuff. If you go to the Instagram page, you will see funny videos, like training videos, review videos. But what are your thoughts on sometimes people posting like all these great save and like social media save and social media drills and stuff like that related to the actual goalkeeper thing? Like people go and watch this guy making 300 save or all this, like to a reality of actual goalkeeping.
I mean, the game is the best teacher, right? So I think as goalkeeper coaches, and even goalkeepers, our job is to put ourselves in game realistic situations that help us make decisions. What are highlights? They're inspirational. They're PR, right? It's to promote you or something. Drills that you see online, they're entertaining, right? So we have to separate what's just pure entertainment and what's pure promotion. We have to, separate those things from goalkeeping development because, yeah, maybe making high hand upper 90 saves when somebody's throwing a ball to you 8 times in a row, maybe there's some component that you're learning there. Maybe it's a fitness exercise, who knows? But again, it just has to reflect the game and the decisions you have to make. And running from post to post or diving over, tires that are on fire or bicycles that are on fire, we have to know what it's for. And, I like watching these entertaining and inspirational videos just as much as the next goalkeeper. But what's most important is the simple things. Can you catch the ball? Can you kick the ball? And I was talking to a goalkeeper recently. She's replacing another very good goalkeeper that I try to put on your radar as well. And I'm like, I don't expect you. This is what I told her. I was like, I don't expect you to pull a ball to the corner. But what I do, this area here, this is your responsibility. Can you catch a ball? First, can you make a decision to deflect it? Right? Can you find yourself in balance in your ready position? Even when I'm trying to throw you off balance by, moving a ball, changing angles, asking for different requirements. So for me, it's our job is to do what is best for us as individuals. Some goalkeepers may require more fitness training and want to do that, and that builds their confidence and that's their foundation. But again, we can't forget about the simple things: catching the ball, controlling the ball, securing the ball, distributing the ball, holding the ball in crosses.
Yeah, and being consistent. I think that's also a key phrase for a goalkeeper or word for a goalkeeper. It's consistency. Like you can have a practice that you are Manuel Neuer, and then the next practice you are Juan Seguiel. Like you need to be that consistently and prove that to your team as well. Um, Okay, so keeper stuff, goalkeeper training, all of this. One day I go to my Instagram page and I see Chris hanging out with Courtois, right? What experience. I'm sure like I was jealous. I'm being honest with you. I'm like, oh my days, I wish I was there. I wish I get to know Courtois, whatever. So with that being said, what has been one of the most memorable moments that it has come thanks to soccer? Besides meeting me, of course. No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, that's part of it, right? Is the friends that you develop along the way, whether it's your teammates or fellow coaches that, hopefully we could be lifelong friends. I mean, soccer and goalkeeping more specifically, is such a small niche And, there's only a few degrees of separation probably from me to a youth player. There's probably a coach that I know that knows a coach that coaches a kid in Idaho somewhere, right? And I think it's important for all of us to embrace it, right? And so for me, that's really important. Most memorable moments for me are, you know, it was a scary moment, but I spoke at the Soccer Hall of Fame, and this was before it was truly like a popular topic about how to integrate the goalkeeper into a team training session. I was in my 20s speaking in front of like hundreds of coaches,
Yeah.
and I was speaking alongside with Paul Caligiuri, who was U.S. men's national team, and because I started keeper stop, they're like, "Hey, we had somebody skip out on us. Can you do it for us?"
Hmm.
And so it's being invited to things like that. And now I love doing goalkeeper education for United Soccer coaches. I've been invited to the regional development schools for U.S. Soccer, and you know what? Maybe I don't have the best pedigree in the entire world because I'm not an A licensed coach, but I have A plus passion for the position, and I pride myself on learning. So I enjoy teaching, and then because of my passion in goalkeeping and how much I love equipment and having goalkeepers have the confidence with their equipment and education, I've had an opportunity to train with Mexican national team players, Thibaut Courtois. I've met a lot of great MLS coaches and players. Um, and, I, never thought in a million years that I would ever be this goalkeeping personality, and I think that all of that stuff is exceptional. There's two things that trump those two things, though, is like being stopped at conventions or tournaments like you just did beforehand, and somebody telling me, "Hey, I watched your goalkeeping training videos and I love them. They helped me become a goalkeeper coach," or you helped me be a goalkeeper. And to me that means the most. I would love to have $1 million in my bank account someday, but to me, my heart is full and my head is, inspired because I have people that believe in the messaging that I've had over the years and have the same passion I do. That's number one. And number two is because of my passion for goalkeeping and people that I know that I surround myself with. My kids want to go play soccer and they, want to do keeper wars. I mean, this weekend, my kid is doing a glove review.
Yeah.
How adorable is that? He's like, "Dad, can you record this?"
That's amazing. That's great. That's awesome. Two final questions, Chris. But before we go to the question, again, I really, really want to acknowledge you because just as the beginning, like what I was saying at the beginning, like years ago, I always had this dream of like, oh, I want to meet keeper stuff, Christian. So I know not only on myself, you have like touched a lot of goalkeepers. And I'm pretty believer that like there's nothing better as a goalkeeper to win Christmas and getting new gloves. And I'm sure like you have created that path to a lot of goalkeepers, to parents to go and look for internet and finding their gloves and you providing those gloves and you putting all these hours of work and everything. Like I really want to acknowledge you because you have helped a lot of people. So I think that's
Thank you.
important for you to know, like for real, from my heart. Like you did it with me, you did it with one person. I'm sure you have done it with multiple people as well. So two final questions for you, so we can close. First of all, how important are gloves for goalkeeper? Like, let's be real. A goalkeeper defines. Sorry, some gloves define a goalkeeper.
So, how important are gloves? I think the right choice in gloves is, it builds confidence, right? And it goes back to what I said before. There's a price and a glove for every goalkeeper, and it's important to find that. But I remember what I felt like and how confident I felt having my Royce Tony Meola gloves, back in the 90s, right? And I remember how much it cost my parents to have them. And it is a sense of confidence. So I think that's why it's important to truly partner with somebody like us where we can answer questions and help them derive at a decision that meets the most sense for their goalkeeper and their household budget. because the way I think about this, it's a journey. I appreciate your story and how, our journey started before I even knew it when you were in college. I mean, there are goalkeepers that I've been selling goalkeeping equipment to since they were in size six gloves, and now they're playing in the USL or representing their national team in various countries. And I love that journey, and that's what's important to me. But it starts with a pair of gloves. It starts what grounds them, right? And of course it's their passion and it's their drive, it's their athleticism. But there's something special about that first pair of gloves, right? There's something special that helps them create that connection to the ball and build confidence.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I remember every time we used to buy gloves back in Colombia. I was like, oh, who's gonna be my first goal? And I was giving everything besides somebody to score my first goal with my new gloves. I will have like, there is no chance. I will do everything to make those saves. So I
So
do
my favorite thing right now is, and it's a lesson, but it's a hard lesson. I get a million people ask for free gloves.
believe.
And I always say it's like nothing in life is free,
Yeah.
right? It's a sacrifice. If you want something bad enough, you're gonna make extra money. You're gonna do chores. You're gonna collect cans. You're going to, pool all your birthday money to get gloves. I just think things are so easy sometimes in today's society, and we have to remember, you know, everything costs something, whether it's time, and time is our most valuable, commodity that we have to share. That's the most valuable thing we have to share. So, have that same approach when we're practicing goalkeeping. It's time, it's the energy we put in, and the gloves, I will tell you that there were some holidays because we didn't have a lot of money. I'd be like, Grandma, Grandpa, and aunt and uncle, hey, don't get me anything. Can I have $10 here, there, and whatever? And then I bought them.
What was your favorite glove?
Oh God, it's like asking your favorite child. But over the years, like I don't even know these brands. The Sundico Titanium was a gray glove, and it was my first introduction to a really form-fitting, like 4 millimeter, really soft all-weather. The Cells Adhesion Ultra Wrap
No.
um, is absolutely amazing, and you know, I mean, now we've created our own glove. I mean, Ul Sport. I love all brands. I think every brand, as I said, has their reason. Or Royce finger protection, nothing better. Elite Sport because of their value proposition. It's gloves affordable to everybody, but worn by pros too. I mean, one glove is amazing designs and pushing the envelope on fabrics, and West Coast with their USA designed really fun mantra. I mean, we designed the KPR gloves that are just like, to me, is a throwback to the glove that's just really super comfortable, tight fitting, um, and breathable with lots of latex to ball contact. So I mean, to me, there's been various favorite gloves at different times. I mean, hell, I used to even love, back a couple years ago, I wear the Elite Sport Supreme because I love the value and comfort in the Elite Sport Supreme. So I think as you get older, you start to value different things.
Yeah. Last question, Chris.
Um,
Imagine you get to talk to a 16-year-old Chris, little Chris, right? Trust all your journey of going as an entrepreneur, as coaching, meeting all these great people. You mentioned a psychologist, sport, and Courtois, and all these moments. What three lessons or what advices will you give to little Chris?
so advice I would give it to myself and any other goalkeeper: love what you do. And there's gonna be more than three. Enjoy the process, right? Love yourself in that journey, making sure that you don't listen to other people, you don't listen to the negativity. You just really find what you love about what you're doing. I mean, those are the three things that I would focus on as a young athlete. I mean, everybody right now is so concerned about making a team and next, what happens next. Enjoy what's going on in the present. So for me, it's going to be those three things, and then also It's put your heart and soul into everything. Just put it in, and regardless of what the outcome is you at least have tried to control what the next step is. You try to control what the outcome is. So for me, putting your best effort in prepares you for what's next, and it opens up doors. One of those things I always like to say is there's no such thing as luck. It's where preparation meets opportunity. And that's one of the things that I would tell myself as a young person. It's like, he starts because he's lucky or whatever, he's taller or whatever. No, you create your opportunity. So work hard, love what you do, and you know, uh, you know, put yourself first. Make sure you love yourself before you love anybody else, and the rest falls into place, whether it's you playing pro or being pro in something, being a pro teacher, being a pro accountant, being a pro, caregiver, or, a great mom or dad. You put everything into it.
Yeah, and just falling in love with the process, right? Living the present and enjoying the journey, like you were saying. So, Chris, I think that's all my questions for you right now. I hope in the future we get to meet again, have all these conversations, hopefully in person. But thank you very much for being part of this, taking your time to do this, and everything you do for the goalkeeper community.
Yeah. Any questions? I'm your guy. You know that you need anything for me and goalkeepers. If you're watching this, I am here for the goalkeeper community. I want to make sure, that you're in the equipment that you need, you're playing at your personal best, and you're confident. And if it takes you asking questions or coming up to say even hello and asking a question, I love it and I want to be a part of it. So I thank you.
Thank you, Chris.